Next day they marched to Jericho and camped about the wall. It's high and strong and thick, they said, but God will make it fall. So they marched now to Jericho, and they haven't marched around it yet, but they're seeing how strong and mighty it is. They marched a march around the walls with 7 trumpets playing. The soldier men of Jericho up on the wall were saying, "Such noise they make. What silly folks. Why don't they go away?" But they just blew their horns and marched around the wall that day. And there was a lot of them marching around the wall once the first day. They're taking notice, and they're just not understanding also what's happening. They only have trumpets, right? And that's what they are sounding here. Otherwise, they're also more quiet. They don't hurt them or try to shoot at them or anything like that. They're just like looking at the spectacle, right? So that is what's happening here. God's plan is in motion. For 6 long days they did the same. Then came the 7th day. "Today we win," said Joshua. "Let's hear your trumpets play." With trumpets loud, the people marched around the wall so high for 7 trips, and then they stopped and raised a mighty cry. So they went around with those trumpets, being really loud with those trumpets now at the 7th day. Raised a mighty cry, shouted, that is, was so loud. Sound of thunder filled the land and rumbled all around. It was a fiery, a very, very big, commotion, loudness, and shaking that was happening. That is what led to the fall of these walls. And it just was like this ongoing tumbling. As mighty Jericho's great walls came tumbling to the very ground here. All of it was tumbling down. It was breaking apart, cracking, right? Why? Because God allowed this to happen. Simply, that is it. They obeyed to the God's command what they needed to do, march around. How silly it may have seemed. How, long this process was. It could seem to them, right? They still pressed on, followed God's directions here. And now they got the victory, and they're able to see another miracle. Huge miracle happened, because this fortified city is taken down here by trumpets and voices, is what it comes out to. And behind all of that is the power of God. Said Joshua, "Go take the town, but Rahab shall go free, for now she wants to serve the Lord with all her family." That's Rahab here being protected now. The Israelite people would not get to her or her family, right? Because she did an honorable thing, keeping the spies safe here. And she, kept them safe throughout that whole spy journey. And they kept their word. They are, very integrous here for doing that. She wants to be in the Lord's family, serve the Lord. She is obeying here God, doing her calling here, which was a very important mission she had to do here in order for the Israelite people here, the people of God in this story, to proceed to where God wants them to be. And she is a part of that. She also wants to be someone that continues to work for the Lord. She's a child of God here, her family. They want to serve the Lord, and they want to be here on God's side. She knows that's all that matters, and that they will have the victory. Their side will win because God is with them. We have a home, the people cried. God gave us victory. They're able to get to that promised land. They're able to get there closer and closer. They're able to see these walls have tumbled down, but they already remember, they're starting to remember here, at first, how strong it looked like, how just fortified it was, how it was so difficult to break through, to just defeat, to fall apart, to come crumbling down, right? How can this victory happen? Only by God, and they're able to see this, and they're able to really witness God working here in a miraculous way, profound way, a way that we still remember to this day. The walls come tumbling down because God allowed that to happen through their voice and their ram's horns and their obedience here to follow God's directions. And everybody here is able to be a part of this victory. And everybody is now thanking God, seeing here, they shall trust in the Lord more and more. And so more reason for them to get to that promised land and know God will provide. The parents' note from the editor. The story of how the walls of Jericho came tumbling down is part of the great adventure of God's people. God had called Abraham to leave his home and venture into the unknown. He promised him and his children a new homeland in the land of Canaan. At a later time, his descendants became slaves in Egypt. After many years, God led the Hebrews out of slavery. 40 years they wandered in the Sinai desert region. Only the next generation had the faith to venture into the land of Canaan, inhabited by people greater and taller than they, with cities great and fortified up to heaven. Deuteronomy 1:28. God gave Joshua the faith to lead his people across the Jordan to possess Jericho, the fortress city at the entrance to the promised land. Now this homeless people had a home, a land in which they could freely develop into the kind of people God had in mind when he had chosen them to bear a blessing for all the nations of the earth. Genesis 12:2-3. Will you lead your child to see how our story fits into the plan of salvation God had for his people? Will you help him see that Joshua marched against Jericho on the strength of God's promise? Will you help your child believe that God has ways to pull down walls in our lives today, and that God will make things happen? God keeps his promises. He will make miracles happen because that's who he is. He's a miracle working God. He will let miracles happen. Now, will we allow him to do that? Will we believe in that? And will we see that that's what we need to do, to believe in the miracle for the miracles to happen, to believe that a miraculous God can have that happen, and that only by God can we know that we'll have the victory. God will make something happen, make a way for his promise, because his promises are true, to take place. He wants to keep it, and he wants to give us things through his promises as well. So let us be encouraged here that God wants to give us all these wonderful things. There's going to be a journey. There's going to be that journey of trusting. And the more we trust in God, the more that we can rest in believing in his goodness, faithfulness, his love, and therefore we can we'll finally get there eventually. The promises that he has for us. And so it could be as a group, individually. Let us remember here that it's going to be a journey to get things that we want, and then there's some that we can get much more sooner than others. But let us be encouraged here that God wants to give us bigger and better things. There's going to be more obstacles, but if we obey, he will lead us there. And it is going to be one after another, so it may seem, but it's just relying on his goodness and his miracle working power, and that he is someone who stays true to his word, so he will make it happen. And so He is showing his glory more and more through these ways. He's showing how only he can be trusted, only he can do these things, and who he is, who's the one true God. Like that characteristics that this one true God is, that he's miraculous. He can see far into the future, and he has purposes and plans for us. So let us not be down or anything like that when it comes to things in our lives that we just feel like can never go away, can never be broken through, right? Things will continuously be a certain way. There's problems that will never go away, but God will want to break that down. We just have to believe that it is possible. There will be a way, and that we have to partner with him to do that.